Welcome, everyone. Happy Thursday. And of course, Thursday means that it is time for Talent Experience Live, the show that covers everything that you need to know in talent acquisition, recruiting, talent management, HR, and so much more. We always like to say here on the show that this is the best show on the internet. It is better than Succession, although the last episode was a good one, so you might want to check that out. But when it comes to human resources and everything in between, this one is the best of the best. Better than your favorite podcast as well. Of course, we are streaming on those, Apple Music and Spotify, so feel free to check those out once the show is over if you have to hop a little soon. I am your host, Devin Foster, and of course, Talent Experience Live is proudly brought to you by the good folks here at Phenom, whose purpose is to help 1 billion people find the right job. For those of you who were in Philadelphia last week, you already know that. I think we closed out almost every session mentioning our purpose of helping 1 billion people find the right job. And in case you didn't attend, the way that we do that is through our Intelligent Talent Experience platform, which helps candidates find the right fit faster, employees evolve in their current roles and beyond, recruiters achieve next level productivity, and managers build better teams with data analytics and, of course, automation. Speaking of which, some of that automation got a new facelift at I Am Phenom. Last week, we unveiled Phenom X Plus. Talks all about generative AI, how it can help you and your teams in the future. Definitely sign up for the webinar on phenom.com. And of course, we do all of this through super slick artificial intelligence and machine learning. So if you are interested, feel free to hop over there. We start every show off with an icebreaker. I love to get the audience involved. So to start off today's show, I want to hear from you, whoever you may be, at home, in the office, wherever you are. If you attended I Am Phenom, what was your favorite part? And if you weren't able to attend, but you were able to see some of the content or some of the photos that were posted online, what's your favorite part about Philadelphia in general? That is, if you didn't get a chance to attend the conference itself. For those of you that did, there's no escaping that icebreaker. You have to tell us what your favorite session was at I Am Phenom. While we are moving on through the show, I was able to connect with a few folks at the conference itself. We were able to record some sessions for, of course, Talent Experience Live, and one of which was Eardly of Pontoon Solutions. We had a fantastic discussion about the open talent economy. But I said, Jay, why don't we have you on the program to discuss live a little bit? We can air the recording, we can talk through that, but there's something about interacting with folks who are watching live. So without any further hesitation, let's bring Jay onto the program. Jay, how are you?
I'm good, Devin. Great to see you again.
Long time no see. It was, we met Wednesday last week, right? In person in Philly?
Just a hair over a week ago feels like another year ago.
Yeah, I know. I tried to catch up on sleep. I have a 19-month-old at home. So I didn't catch up on any sleep, but it's awesome to have you on the show. Jay, while we were discussing, beforehand, kind of getting prepped, one thing that we didn't get a chance to share in the recording was how Phenom and Pontoon Solutions really came to form this partnership, why it made so much sense. So, of course, being on the marketing side of things here, typically they don't share with us what happens in these conversations. So I'd love to hear from you. Why does this work so well?
Yeah, for sure. And what will be shared in the recording, what you and I discussed last week, is Pontoon's particular view of the future of work, these forces that are impacting the industry that we operate in. We've dubbed it the open talent economy, so that's what we'll be talking about later. And so what Pontoon set out to do a few months ago was based on that view we have of the experience talent now expects in their career journeys and the needs that companies have to achieve better outcomes. We wanted to find a partner that would help us build a platform that in our words, unlocks the open talent economy. And so we vetted a number of companies, a number of technologies, and ultimately the partnership was struck with Phenom in large part because you have a shared view that we do. We may use different terms, we may use different words, But what we found through the process is the two organizations are very aligned in mission and purpose. And that was ultimately where our partnership, or where the decision came from to cement our partnership.
That makes total sense. And I'm excited about this partnership in the future and continuing to have you on the program as it grows and really blossoms. As for, the different terminology, I completely understand. I grew up in South Jersey. They say water around here. It's not water. It's water, bagel, the whole nine birds, Eagles. So I get that there, but it's cool to really share that same belief system. And I think that's really what separates, organizations from not partnering or potentially finding a great partnership like we have with Pontoon. I want to call out some of the comments in the comments section. I see Jennifer Toment says she loved the product innovations. Andrea says it was incredible to gather with people once again. And I Am Phenom was a game changer. Henry, just hands up, excited to be here. Henry, welcome to the program. Melissa says it's a great way to say it, talent experience. What do you expect as talent is flexible to work, home, gig work, the whole nine. I completely agree. And one thing I want to say, Jay, if anyone has any questions throughout the recording or anything like that, we're going to do a live Q&A at the end. So feel free to fire those in there. We promise we will answer them all at the end of the program. Jay, you kind of almost skirted past it there. No one gets on the program without answering the icebreaker question. So did you have a favorite part of Philly or I Am Phenom itself?
Yeah, for me, there's two parts. So I'm going to go favorite part of Philly. I love Philly. I've spent a lot of time in Philly, worked for a company that was headquartered in Philly. My daughter was born in Philly. So in general, number one, thanks for bringing me back. It was great to be back in the city and to spend some time there. My favorite part of the conference was, you already alluded to it, the product innovation. And I'll tie this right back to the point I made about our partnership. You guys are pushing the industry forward, but in a really responsible way too. So hearing about how you are embedding AI and machine learning in the tool, but with a really rigorous framework for vetting, how and when to use those technologies. For me, that was the best part. Again, just really solidified the decision we made as a company, getting to see that firsthand with you last week.
You are always welcome in the city of Philadelphia. If you want to visit us in the booming metropolis outside of Philly in Ambler, you're more than welcome to join us here as well. But
be there in 2 weeks.
Perfect. I can't wait. And the water is safe for everyone at home. Everything's good. But I want to call attention to what Andrea said. It was nice to meet with folks in person again. The last I Am Phenom that we had was in 2020. I mean, it was right before the pandemic. It was awesome to get everyone in the same place. Excited for next year. I know we are going to have some new information coming out around that as well. Jennifer Thomas dropped a little bit of information around the innovation session. But Jay, we had a great conversation last week. At least I felt that way. I hope you felt the same. Is there anything else that you want to share before we jump right into really the clip?
The one thing that didn't make it on the recording is I also have a 4-month-old. So I have the same sleep deficit you do right now, Devin. We talked about it. It just didn't make it into the recording.
No, and I feel your pain. 4 months old now, 15 months ago, that would be. It feels like 6 years, Jay. That has happened.
And it only escalates. It only goes faster.
Yeah, I know. Well, awesome. We will chat more about our children at the end of this. But for now, let's air the clip. With Jay Eardly of Pontoon Solutions. Jay, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Devin. Happy to be here.
Yeah, awesome. Happy to have you. We always like to start off the show with kind of a silly question. And it's, no one really aspires to grow up and be in HR, right? You never see that kindergartner on their first day of school saying, what do you want to be when you grow up? And it says a recruiter.
That's right.
It doesn't traditionally happen. So I have to ask you, how did you get into the industry?
Yeah, and great question. You're exactly right. For those that have been in the industry a while, we now joke that as we've had kids, we are giving them headsets in the crib. So maybe we will start growing recruiters. But yeah, it was not in my career plans. In school, in college, for 3.5 years, I was studying and preparing to be a high school history teacher and a baseball coach. Okay. Because baseball coaching was the real passion. And then the teaching was the job that enabled me to be available to coach. And spring semester senior year, I said, you know what? I don't want to be a teacher my whole life. So what else do I do?
Yeah.
and met a college friend who has already landed a job in recruiting. He said, "Send me your resume." On Monday, I sent him the resume. On Friday, I had the job, and 20 years later,
Still in it.
Yep.
Well, it makes sense. Most people, when they want to be a teacher, they want their summers off, right? Baseball, no summers off. So you're still at school. I can understand.
That's exactly right.
But so you're now 20 years into the industry. You're working for Pontoon Solutions. What exactly, for the folks at home, does Pontoon Solutions do? What's the elevator pitch, if you will?
Yeah. The quick elevator pitch is Pontoon Solutions helps design and implement workforce strategies to help companies achieve better outcomes. Now, down a level, what that looks like are MSP and RPO programs, direct sourcing, SOW services, what we think of as, the way that that companies get talent into companies.
Absolutely. Okay. And today we're talking about the open talent economy.
Open talent economy.
A very existential topic, I would say. Could be open for interpretation. What does that mean to you?
Yeah. Well, first of all, the open talent economy is not something we've created or that we are doing. It exists.
Okay.
And we are all existing in it. The open talent economy is just the words we've given to the dynamics that we've all been talking about, feeling, seeing, that are impacting companies, talent, the labor market. These things that are forces that exist and are trends under the work we do. What the forces are that we are identifying is that people now want to engage in a different way. Talent wants to engage in a different way. For us, we look at this and say that this is an existential moment, though, where there will be winners and losers in this. So companies that are not adopting workforce strategies in line with these forces of the open talent economy will lose. They will get left behind. Yeah. And there are some companies who are ahead of this already and are winning. So we are framing this up as there's an old game and there is a new game. And the old game looks like I have a rec, I have a job title, I have a templated job description, recruiter go fill the rec. And the open talent economy are these forces and solutions that are needed in this new game.
Yeah, I mean, a huge concept at I Am Phenom, where I believe our CEO and co-founder Mahi Bayaredi spoke about hiring for personality and teaching skill, right? At the end of the day. But when we talk about the open talent economy, would you say that this is a newer concept? Is this driven by some of the change that we've gone through since the last I Am Phenom back in 2020, or has it been around for a little while and now it's just gaining traction and recognition?
Yeah, the latter. These were forces that were there that were heading in this direction, and I think the pandemic accelerated it. When I started in recruiting 20 years ago, we still were conscious that there were variables in job descriptions. There were variables in work. And those variables were more varied in importance to each candidate. So some candidates cared more about money, some cared more about the commute time, some cared more about the nature of the work, some cared more about office environment. So these things still existed and were still important to talent. What accelerated in the last 3 years, largely in part to the pandemic, is number one, there's more abstract variables. So purpose is now incredibly important to individuals. Working for purposeful companies is incredibly important. Career growth, the value of the work that we produce. Commute is maybe somewhat obsolete depending on the organization. Yeah. So the variables have changed and they've become more abstract. And so again, old game, you knew the 5 things that were inherent in the job. Here's the job description. Here's the experience you have to have. We are in an office 5 days a week. Here's where our office is. We couldn't change these things. Mm-hmm. The abstraction of some of these variables means we have more control. So we can, as companies, make choices about the way we engage talent to create an experience that people want to say, I want to be a part of this experience, and maybe I can even craft it myself. Yeah. And this is fundamentally different in the last couple of years than it was before.
Yeah. It's interesting you mentioned purpose there and the importance there, because I think back to 2018, 2019, it felt like the industry was overcome with these culture videos, right? With ping pong tables, beer on tap and everything along those lines. Not that there's anything wrong with that. If you are looking for that within your work experience, we're here to provide it. But now, because of the pandemic, because commute may be obsolete, it is more about what is the mission of the company? What are you working to do? How are you giving back? Things like that in between. I have to ask you, from the perspective of all of this information and everything being digital right now, how much does data play into the role of an open talent ecosystem?
Well, it's huge. I mean, it's critical. I mean, but that's that's a backbone of much of just business today, for sure. But how I would frame that in the open talent economy is take those variables that I just described earlier. We used to be able to define them as the employer.
Yeah.
Here are the variables of this job. Here are the facets of this job. Candidate, do you want this or not?
Yeah.
And then here's what's required. Do you have this or not? Now we need data because we need to know what the important part of the experience is for the talent, so that we are catering our experience to attract the talent we want. Now, as a company, as employers, as companies, we still need to make choices.
Yeah.
There are still certain things where we have to define, say, the culture. This is a good example. We have to define the mission and purpose of the organization, and so there will still be choices that say, this is the direction we're heading, and therefore we won't be a fit for all talent.
Yeah.
So this is not an idea of we need to be best fit for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But the understanding what the candidates we want. So if, the type of talent we need in our business to achieve better outcomes, understanding what is important to them is mission critical.
Yeah. No, it's interesting that you bring that up, because it's almost taboo to talk about in the HR industry of, we don't want every candidate, right? But I had a conversation months ago with the folks at ChenMed, and they were saying that throughout their talent communities and everything that they push out towards their candidates, it's, hey, this is a travel nurse position, right? You are working with elderly folks. We understand that you align with our mission, our purpose of helping people, but if you're not comfortable in senior homes or anything along those lines, you're probably not going to be a good fit. It's going to be not a waste of time for either, but at some point there is going to be a crossroads. So sharing that information, and I think to your point, when we look at the candidate journey from point A to point B, that data that we talk about could potentially illuminate some of those spots of, all right, for this particular position, we're showcasing our ping pong table. This is an IT role. They may not be interested in that, or whatever the case may be.
Exactly.
So with your clients, do you ever see some of those things, like where we're looking at a holistic talent approach, because you can see all steps, you can see where there may be some kinks in the chain?
Yeah. And I would extend that even further to say, looking at this idea of a holistic talent approach, and I will acknowledge that this is sort of encroaching on total talent conversation, which is a 15-year buzzword in our industry that has been elusive and never achieved. But the idea is this: work, filling jobs is this old game we've described. Yeah. Getting work done is what companies now need to do, and getting work done can happen in a variety of locations at a variety of times by a variety of people, meaning it could be full-time employees, temp employees, freelance employees. It could be a partner organization. The data that tells us here's where the work is going to get done best, or here is the organization that is going to get the work done the best, or here's the location that is going to get this work done the best. This is the conversation that we're now having with the companies that are already, their mindset is already in the open talent economy and are already winning in the open talent economy. Organizations that still think full-time employment is siloed from contract employment, is siloed from consulting, SOW type engagements, is separate from our partner ecosystem. Yeah. They're still stuck, and that richness of holistic data across that world will then lack these big insights. Yeah. We heard this morning from one of the keynotes from the CHRO from Kuehne+Nagel, that
Lothar Harris.
Lothar
yeah,
Harris, yeah. Really insightful session this morning. They are already, and they've partnered with Phenom People on this, to think about the talent acquisition process as a hiring and an internal mobility exercise.
Yeah.
They've combined this. They're not separate things anymore. And I'd say it's a wonderful concept. That's very open talent economy concept.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it can even be extended further. There's other steps an organization can continue to take to think differently about how to get work done in the organization.
Well, I mean, you raise an excellent point. When you think of contract employees and part-time employees or folks that are hired on for specific projects, sometimes they don't even get company emails, right? And they have to communicate with other individuals in the business. So you're saying that there's a competitive advantage to opening up those lines and not looking at it from a siloed approach. And I think that makes complete and total sense. And when you mention what Kuhnenagel is doing, I immediately think of like gigs and things like that, right? Don't prevent a contracted employee or somebody from picking up or helping out in another area of the business, right?
That's right.
The goal for, I think, most organizations should be to eventually get everyone to that full-time employee, because the work has changed, right? We had a conversation a couple weeks ago on the show about how the 9 to 5 is almost extinct, right? People work their own hours. They work at different times of the day. It's not that traditional commute. The commute may be extinct in some way, shape, or form. So if you bring someone on who maybe is just looking to get back into the workforce for a part-time position, all of a sudden they have some experience to grow and blossom, right? We talk about employees being a lot like plants, right? They're not going to grow unless you give them sunlight, water, and the whole nine. You have to show them other opportunities to grow. Now, you talked at the beginning of the show a little bit about companies maybe not being successful if they don't adopt that. Are there any early signs that you've seen of organizations, and you don't have to name names here, I promise, but organizations where they're kind of, putting their feet in the sand and saying, we're sticking to brick and mortar, 9 to 5 commute. Contracted employees are separate from project employees who are separate from full-time employees. And is it beginning to affect their businesses?
Yeah. And again, one thing to clarify is, if a company says we are 9 to 5 in an office 5 days a week, fair choice for them to make. Mm-hmm. There's trade-offs.
Yes.
And that's, cool. We just have to acknowledge the trade-offs. But again, that to me is that may be their culture. But to the heart of your question, yes, where there still is too much rigidity in thinking about, in order for us to achieve our objective, therefore I have to fill a requisition of this type. They are just limiting their access to talent. Yeah. The idea where we see this going, where we believe companies need to get to in the open talent economy, is being more focused on the outcomes that the business is trying to drive. So if I'm a shareholder, or if I'm a product owner, mm-hmm. Or heck, if I'm a teller in a bank, my background is hugely financial services, so I often revert there. Then I'm really responsible for driving a certain outcome for my customer. We all have customers. Yeah. And organizations that are clearer with the talent they're bringing in of achieve these outcomes. When, where, and how, I don't care. Mm-hmm. And if you prefer to do it in a freelance model or a temp model because that fits your lifestyle, great. All I care about is the outcome. Yeah. They are getting wider access to talent. Mm-hmm. They are opening those doors to more and more of this of the labor that wants to work in this flexible model or have more control over the way they work.
That makes sense. It's interesting you bring up the bank teller scenario, because I had a conversation about ChatGPT a few weeks ago. I don't know if you heard the episode, but if you're familiar with the Philadelphia area where Phenom is right now, there's Mac machines, right? Money access centers. So even the evolution of the bank teller role has changed now, where people don't necessarily go in to cash their checks. It's for some of those more intimate conversations of, hey, I'm looking to get a loan. I want to get a mortgage, whatever that may be. I have not the best financial past, where I used to always go in and say, hey, I overdrafted my account again. I think we've all been there. But neither here nor there. the evolution has changed, and technology is assisting us more and more. So when we, talk about AI in the workforce and a business focusing on that end goal, it allows us to reflect on, what we're looking for from a workforce and how that workforce works. There were trends online. I'm sure you saw it on LinkedIn last year and the year before, where it's you have to change your job every 3 years in order to get a salary bump and things like that. I don't think that is necessarily the case for everyone. And I think it's going to change the way we look at organizations. And to your point, maybe those folks who need to change jobs regularly in order to find that, they're looking for freelance roles. They're looking for whatever that may be. And organizations will adapt in order to find the right workforce. Anything that we potentially missed? Any closing thoughts that you wanted to share about the open talent economy that I may not have mentioned?
Well, you were tiptoeing around one right there, and this is AI and how this is impacting. And let's bring it home. I mean, impacting what we do, impacting matching talent with where the outcomes are needed, and that's the key point. Is this is just making all of our this is empowering us to be more focused on what are the important decisions we have to make, what are the important conversations we have to have. Again, alluding to a customer in a banking environment, it may not take away the need to talk to somebody in a bank branch, but the idea is that interaction now is about decision making and not about the transaction. And so the same is true in our world, and the same is true in the partnership that Pontoon and Phenom are venturing into, is thinking about how can AI make the work we do, the sourcing and recruiting and getting talent to the point where it is needed to achieve an outcome. And it is just that it is empowering our people to be more value added in the decision-making process and not the transaction process.
Absolutely.
And it's a super exciting time to be doing this together. And obviously you guys are, we see Phenom People as industry leader in this space, which is part of the reason that we joined this partnership. But the idea is that we're going to push each other into this new open talent economy and continue to find new solutions for the companies that are willing to say, yeah, we see it. We agree that this is happening. We agree we need to change the way we do things. Help guide us there, help walk with us on this, co-created journey.
Yeah, we certainly are excited. And I love that last little bit that you said there, where it is about the conversation at the end of the day. We spend so much time talking about how AI removes the mundane tasks from recruiters' lives, quite frankly, from our personal lives as well. I can ask the lady in my watch to set an alarm for me tomorrow and it'll be done, right?
That's right.
But it gives us that opportunity as things shift and as things change to really discuss the gray area, right? Discuss the things that we mentioned at the top of the show, the purpose of, the organization, the candidate, and what motivates them, if they're going to be a good fit, and not just from a skill set perspective or years of experience, but the overall work environment, right?
That's right. The experience that we have to create that is what unlocks this for companies, is creating the optimal candidate experience, and having people in the organization still prepared to act and engage. It's still a people business.
Yeah.
I mean, we are absolutely still in a people business. Saying, the idea that we're breaking down old game silos of here's a rec, fill it with a person, doesn't mean this is not a people business. It still is about the talent. So creating that optimal experience is the underpinning success of this.
Yeah. I mean, it's always funny when people panic about artificial intelligence, and especially in the recruitment industry, because when you think of, I'm going to call customer service, there's automated voice messaging systems for you, right? Press 1 to do this. I don't know if anyone at home knows this. You can spam the 0 button and it will connect you to a human if you want to.
My go-to.
Yeah, exactly. So there's still that human element, and that will always be the case. You can't have chatbots do a tremendous amount of wonderful things. You can't get to know someone's personality, I think, truly from that, because people are going to answer what they think is the right answer. That's the nature of the beast in the recruitment industry. It's how can I answer this question to get the job, right?
Yep.
And I think even from an inverse, and this is a whole nother topic, but recruiters are, how can I ask this question so it doesn't scare this candidate away, right? You're both kind of playing that selling game, but this has been a fantastic conversation.
Yeah,
I'm rambling a bit here. Anything to add there?
No, I mean, you're spot on, and that going down that thread could get us into a whole nother episode.
Oh, 1,000%.
Happy to join you for that one.
Yeah,
in the future.
we will have to have you back. Before we go, where can folks go to learn more about the partnership between Phenom and Pontoon Solutions and Pontoon in general?
Yeah, so I mean, pontoonsolutions.com has whole has our vision and view of open talent economy.
Yep.
But stay tuned to the socials.
Okay.
We'll have this posted, and Pontoon Solutions is putting out a lot of content for what the open talent economy means to talent, what it means to companies, and solutions that we're putting out there to help them achieve better outcomes.
Awesome. Look forward to that. We'll include it in the blog recap and as well as in the show notes.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, man.
Thank you, Devin.
Appreciate it. Jay, I think we did a solid job there. No cuts. We didn't have to cut anything out. It's one straight fluid conversation. What do you think?
Nothing left to be said. See you later, man.
Perfect. We did get some questions that I do think really paint a nice picture. So Casey asks, what's the best piece of advice for a company transitioning from a traditional talent ecosystem into an open talent economy? Any words there?
The one, yes, and that is a great question. Touched on it very briefly in the recording, which is awesome. And I saw that question come in, and it was right before we addressed it. So, Casey, you may have heard something in there that already answered your question, but I'll expand a little bit more. For me, I'd start with focusing on the outcomes you are trying to achieve. The idea of I just want to. I know that I don't have the skills I need, or I know that I don't have enough people that I need. So let me define the experience I want to bring in. That's old game. The new game is, what am I trying to achieve? What are the outcomes I have been tasked with doing? And then from there, okay, so what skills do I need to achieve these outcomes? Thinking of it this way opens that door to, as we've discussed, maybe I can do it with freelancers. Maybe I do need to hire a full-time employee because this is a long-range outcome. Maybe it's a contractor. Maybe the outcomes I'm trying to achieve are so great that I need to bring in a partner to do this. Mm-hmm. But that's the starting point, is what are the outcomes I'm trying to achieve? One of the things that we have started thinking about internally, and of course, when we think about it internally, we think about it for our customers as well, is, starting jobs that way, starting job descriptions that way. And if you start to think in that way, then you already are just open to more possibilities for how to achieve those outcomes than the starting point being a rec and a job description.
That makes total sense. One other question that kind of came through. It was a comment that first of all said, great topic. New game versus old game. Everything you were mentioning there, but the last part is the folks who aren't adopting this new game are going to be left behind. I want to ask you, what do you think it looks like to be left behind? Is that strictly dollars and cents where stock prices will plummet or something down the line? Or is it more so we'll kind of get that feel of, all right, this organization is cutting edge and they're prepared for the future versus an organization that may not be? The reason I ask, obviously, ton of conversation around AI, especially in the talent world with GPT this, GPT that, everything in between. So what does it look like from your perspective?
Yes, the first symptom would be not having the talent in the organization that you need to achieve whatever it is that you are in pursuit of. So from a shareholder's perspective in a company, that may mean tanking stock price. From a product manager's perspective, that may mean not getting the releases out in time that we said we would, or that the business is asking us to do it. It may look like companies where it's painful to work. You feel like we struggle to get work done, and it all points back to, because we are not thinking about talent in a fluid, holistic way. We are still trying to work in silos, and we are doing work. We are very busy. We may even be getting work done. but it may just be it may be more painful. I would also say the opposite is true, or think about it from the other perspective as well. What does it look like to win the new game? And this is, as you described already, though, these are dynamic companies, and it doesn't have to be dynamic it doesn't just mean Silicon Valley companies. A lot of the companies that we are working with, where we see them already adopting this, are blue chip companies. It doesn't just have to be new tech, exciting companies. There are companies that have been around for hundreds of years who have adopted this mentality. But it creates a dynamic way of working in their organization, a place where people want to be a part of, a place where people feel mission oriented. And look, dynamic organizations produce great results. And that's what winning in the new game looks like.
No, to use a baseball analogy, because I know you're a fan, I think of the pitch clock, right? This year in the MLB, where a huge risk, right, to change the game as a whole, but they looked at the overall landscape and said, our games are going on too long. I don't know if you're a fan or not, so I apologize for making this assumption on the pitch clock.
You're good.
But they looked at the landscape and where folks' attention spans are headed, and that they had to speed up the game a little bit, and this was something that they could implement. Could have completely backfired, but if, to use a keynote speaker's terminology from I Am Phenom, it's a loon shot, right? It's, let's take this risk, let's try and push forward to bring in a new set of eyeballs. And I think what you're saying is doing that for talent as well, is we have to push the envelope, change our mission statement, make it resonate with this new crop of talent in order to continue to grow as an organization. I want to call out this next question from Jeff, which I think is a nice segue. And he asks, who do you think this applies to precisely? And I Jeff, if I'm wrong here, I think he may be asking if it's a generational thing, if this is really changing because of Gen Z and Gen X coming in and all of this new crop of talent, or is it just the way the world is moving to based on technology?
Yeah, I do not think it is limited to generations. Look, it may be. If we look at the broad swath of talent, we're talking about a very diverse, broad brush group of people here. So I absolutely do not think this is just a generational force. If this were just a generational force, we wouldn't all, as employers, as companies, be feeling it so immensely. I will extend your analogy and kudos to you. This is why you're a good host, Devin. You played right to my sweet spot, bringing up baseball. I'm shocked you did it before I did. This is a perfect example. This is analogous in a sports world for sports fans out there of what old and new game looks like. If you consider how popular and how dynamic the NFL is, and how it has skyrocketed in earnings, in popularity, in viewership, it is because they have adopted what we could equate to new game mentality of their own sport. Whereas baseball was stuck in the mud, totally resistant to change, wanting to do things the way they continue to do. And in all those same paradigms of measuring popularity, they have fallen behind, likely third at best as a popularity sport in the U.S. when they used to be number one. That was a wonderful analogy. And again, the idea of what does winning look like? What does dynamism look like? It is the NFL in this analogy is a perfect example of that. Now, as a big baseball fan, they've completely crushed it with this rule change. It's turned the sport around. I predict that in our lifetime, we will see baseball be the number one sport in America again.
I think so as well. I mean, outside of the pitch clock, to bring this in another analogy here is, you remember day games? You 1 o'clock in the afternoon, you throw on. There's a lot less, and it's because folks are working at all hours of the day. There's no more lunch breaks. People aren't taking their sales folks or their
Correct.
potential customers, prospects to day games. And I think a lot of that is because we're all so separated, right? We saw that during the pandemic, and that's the business aspect of it. But to your point, speeding up the game, putting more nighttime games on television, you're reaching a broader audience. And we all love to have that water cooler talk in the morning. So I appreciate that you liked my analogy. I had to throw you, a fastball down the middle so that you could crank it out of the park. But I think we're all headed towards this trajectory, to your point, where we all want to reach as many folks as we can, whether it be eyeballs for baseball or talent. And I have to ask you, are there any other parting shots that you want to add to this overall flow of where really the work world is going, the future of work?
Yeah, there's not a start and end to this. Again, these are the forces that we are impacting all of us in the work we are trying to do, in the outcomes our businesses are trying to achieve. From our perspective, as a company who does design and implement workforce strategies, I mean, this is square in what we do every day. But no company is immune to these forces. We are all impacted by them. So there's not a start and end point to this. And again, open talent economy is not something we are doing. We are trying to help companies better understand how to achieve better outcomes and how to get the skills in their organization at the right time, right price, right location, to do that. But it's ongoing. There's not a point where we say, okay, open talent economy has ended. It'll evolve into something else again in the future, and those that adapt to whatever that next force or trend will continue to be the winners. But this is absolutely the one that is, the immediate opportunity and or threat, depending on which side of the idea you take.
Yeah, to call out Jenna's comment in the comment section, it's continuous iteration, right? And I think the reason why organizations should look to Pontoon Solutions and what your offerings are is because it's tough to break habits, right? It is a challenge to, when your New Year's resolution comes out and you're like, I'm going to go to the gym every morning or I'm going to run. It's tough to break habits. You can do it for a little while, but sometimes you need that encouragement. You need that expertise on how to get up in the morning and get those things achieved. And when we look at it from a work perspective, folks are creatures of habit. They're used to doing things a certain way. And when we talk about an open talent economy and the fact that it isn't going to end, we are going to continue to change, to continue to adapt, to continue to evolve. I am excited to continue to hear all the great things that the Pontoon Solutions are doing, and excited about the partnership in the future as well, Jay.
Same.
Awesome.
Same.
Well, thank you so much. We'll have to do this again. Maybe we could do it live during a baseball game before they're all on at nighttime. I'd love to do that.
I could do a whole lot of these on baseball. Let's stick to open talent economy.
That's fair. All right, cool. Jay, well, enjoy the rest of your week and enjoy your weekend as well. And once again, if you're looking for more information around Pontoon Solutions, pontoonsolutions.com, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Awesome. Well, enjoy your weekend, and I hope everyone has a great time. Go watch some baseball. We'll see you soon.
Devin, great to see you, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
Speak soon.
Bye. There you have it. That was Jay Eardly of Pontoon Solutions talking about the iterations of an open talent economy. If you missed any of it, don't worry. It is live on YouTube right now. I am going to put this up on Spotify before the end of the afternoon, as well as Apple Music. So follow our socials as well as Pontoon Solutions socials as well. I know they are putting out some great content from this episode, but I hope everyone has a safe and healthy weekend, and we will see you next week. Thanks.